Russell Westbrook, Nikola Jokic, Draymond Green. Yes, these are all players whose careers are currently in the process of being ruined, mainly due to a myriad of reasons. It could either be the organization failing them, the system that the head coach is running failing them, or the player just failing himself. And I'm going to go and take you guys through each and every single one of these players and tell you why that their careers are currently in the midst of being ruined or why they are regressing so badly. Before we get started, guys, super quickly, if you watch a lot of my content, you see it get recommended to you, you haven't hit that subscribe button, please take a minute to subscribe and turn on that notification bell, because as soon as I hit 500,000 subscribers, I will go full-time on YouTube, or we could do something new. As soon as I hit 100,000 people with my noties on, I'll go full-time on YouTube. I currently have 27,000, I believe. So if you don't have my notifications on, be sure to do that. Also, in case of my YouTube channel gets taken down, I'm going to be uploading my content onto Instagram TV. So make sure you're following me on Instagram TV and check out my Discord in the description down below. Now, the very first guy that I want to talk about who is currently regressing like no other is Nikola Jokic. And it's actually surprising me that nobody's talking about this, because there has been no big man that was expected to make a bigger leap this season than Nikola Jokic. And I feel like it's not made as big of a deal because the Nuggets are performing relatively well. As at the time of this video, they are 17-8, which means they have as many losses as the second place Clippers. And one can assume that they can potentially make the leap over the third place Mavericks, who are also 17-8. The problem is that Nikola Jokic is a transcendent talent, and we have never seen a big man who plays the way he does. A big man who prioritizes getting his teammates involved primarily and is as likely to pass to an open man out of the pick and roll than to score it himself. Now, you might be asking, how much has Jokic regressed this year? Don't you think it's a little bit aggressive to put him in this video? While he's averaging 17 points per game and 10 rebounds per game, he's shooting 3% lower from the field. And by the way, 48% isn't really good for a center. But the worst metric is that his value over replacement player, or VORP, or I just like calling it VORP, went from a career high 7.3 last year to a career low 1.7 this year. His box plus minus is down from a 9.5 to a 6.8, and his PER dipped from a 26.3 to a 21.7. And here's the thing that just terrifies me the most. When he was asked about what's going on, Jokic said, "I'm averaging 16, 10, and 6. I think that's pretty good, to be honest." That's the thing that scares me. I don't know if he was joking or not, but if he's content with this stagnation, that's not a good thing. It means things could get only worse from here, but I'll tell you what I honestly think. He also continued by saying, I showed myself that I can play at a completely higher level, especially in the playoffs, but I think I need to get back to that level. That's where he is wrong. He doesn't necessarily need to get back to that level because the Nuggets are doing fine regardless, but ideally he does. In my opinion, I think Jokic was a little bit out of shape coming into this season and just needs some time to shake the rust off. They say the NBA season doesn't truly start until after Christmas, and I guess that might be true for Nikola Jokic. The next player that I want to talk about, whose career was looking like it was in the midst of being ruined, but it could potentially pick up from here, and that's Kristaps Porzingis. And if you asked me a year ago, I was going to tell you before this trade to the Dallas Mavericks, Kristaps Porzingis' talent is getting wasted. And I feel like, honestly, 2 weeks from now, if someone's watching this video 2 weeks later, they're going to be looking at this and saying, "Yo, Mike, you're tripping. Kristaps shouldn't be on this list." So if you're watching this 2 weeks later, let me know if I'm right, because nobody could have expected Porzingis to come back into a situation where he'd average 23 points per game, especially when you're playing with a player like Luka Doncic. Your usage is bound to go down, and that has been the case with Porzingis, which is what you want to see from a player who has been away from basketball for over a year. But a lot of us were really excited about Kristaps Porzingis coming into this season, especially because of the images we saw on the internet about how much muscle the man has put on. Just look at him. But so far, he has a player efficiency rating of 16.2, and to give you a comparison, Markelle Fultz currently has a PER of 15.2, which means so far Kristaps Porzingis has not been yielding the return that the Mavericks wanted when they invested a max contract into him, prior to him even returning from injury. But I feel like that's all going to change. Luka Doncic has gone down with an injury for about 2 weeks, and I think this is a huge blessing in disguise, because now Kristaps will be the focal point of the offense for 2 weeks, and that will do wonders for any NBA player's confidence. Sometimes it's important for a basketball player to remember how truly good they were. And by temporarily boosting Kristaps Porzingis' usage rate and giving Porzingis the opportunity to dominate, even if it means the Mavericks lose a couple of games for now without Luka Doncic, it will translate to greater confidence once Luka returns, and then we can potentially see this dynamic duo take the next step. I feel like Porzingis' regression is a more extreme version of Jokic's, and that's a new team, a new scheme, a decrease in usage, and a return from injury. He's just knocking off some of his own rust, and he'll have an opportunity to do it in these coming weeks. I don't think we're going to lose Jokic or Kristaps' career and they're never going to get back to the form they are right now. I just think they're currently in a downward trend. Now, the next player that I currently think his career is getting absolutely ruined is Lonzo Ball. And I'm sure we could all agree with this. A lot of us were expecting Lonzo to really take the next step on the Pelicans, and things appeared to be very promising from the get-go. Lonzo was partnered with Fred Vinson, who was a shooting coach in charge of recreating Tyreke Evans' ugly shot, which proved to be extremely effective afterward. But Lonzo technically doesn't even deserve to be on this list because he hasn't progressed really or regressed. The scary thing is, Lonzo is stagnating despite his recreated jump shot and being on a team that is focused on player development and building for the future. If you look at his statistics throughout his entire career, Lonzo's numbers more or less look the same. In fact, Lonzo is shooting 1% better from the field than he did as a rookie and is only averaging 0.1 less points per game than he did as a rookie. He's averaging 0.1 more assists more this year than he did last year, and that's how much he's stagnating. This is actually mind-boggling because I've never seen a case of stagnation this great. But why is this happening to Lonzo? Well, the theme of Lonzo's career is, right as he begins to build momentum towards his development, something causes his consistent growth to become inconsistent. This could be in the form of an injury or a coach randomly restricting his minutes, and the problem is that time is beginning to run out for Lonzo Ball because next year is the final year of his rookie contract. And once that contract is up, teams need to put a value on who you are as a player. Is Lonzo a franchise cornerstone? At this moment, not really. Is he a good basketball player? I think so, but I don't think he's a starting caliber basketball player. He's beginning to trend towards a young role player who is also a project. There needs to be some sort of team that needs a point guard who is willing to develop him while playing for the future and having absolutely no chance at the playoffs this season. Oh wait, he's currently on the bench for the second worst team in the NBA. He's not even starting, and to give you an idea, the Pelicans currently have the same record as the Knicks. Now, to add a positive twist to this, I believe the Pelicans are truly trying to develop Lonzo. After all, his value is at rock bottom right now, and you won't get anything good for him by trading him. He's no longer a distraction to the team because his dad is out of the picture, and you might as well try to develop him into your starting point guard of the future because the potential is there, the basketball IQ is there, and the mechanics are beginning to get there. The next player is Lonzo Ball's former teammate, Kyle Kuzma, and I have a huge video coming up on this tomorrow, so I'm going to keep it brief. There was no way that Kyle Kuzma was going to keep up his previous level of production into this season, and I'm sure he's more than okay with that. I feel like a huge reason why Kyle Kuzma's in the situation he's in right now is because he's now on a team with significantly better teammates, and he's no longer the second most used player on the team. Last year, Kyle Kuzma had the second highest usage on the Lakers behind LeBron James, and this year, LeBron James is the second most used player behind Anthony Davis. To give you an idea of how loaded the Lakers are, the Lakers also have significantly more role players that used to have a whole team built around them, like Dwight Howard, Rajon Rondo, Anthony Davis, and Avery Bradley, and JaVale McGee, kinda. And these teammates are now all role players on the Lakers, save for LeBron and Anthony Davis. So you have to also take into account that Kyle Kuzma also came into this year with a brand new head coach, missed some of training camp in the preseason and the regular season with an injury. And once you do that, you're going to have some trouble trying to mesh with your new team. The scary thing about this is Kuzma's contract also expires at the end of next year, and the Lakers are going to have to put a value on him as well. I could see a team really trying to reach for giving him a big contract in restricted free agency, and I don't think the Lakers would be likely to match. But I have way more coming up on Kyle Kuzma because it's way deeper than anything I could get to in this video. The next player that I want to talk about is Russell Westbrook, and he barely made this list as well because recently he's been balling out for the Houston Rockets despite him being a terrible three-point shooter, which takes lots of talent to get done if you think about it. If we made this video a week ago, Russ was posting career lows in PER, points per game, and 3-point percentage, and he's still posting career lows in 3-point percentage, but since then all of those numbers have gone up, and Russ still averages the same amount of points he scored last year, but also averages less assists and rebounds. But I suppose that's because the offense doesn't fully run through him anymore. Russ is sharing the ball with James Harden, a player who is #1 in the NBA in value added, and a player who is literally averaging 40 points per game to go with 7 assists and 6 rebounds. When you have a guy like that on your team, you don't really need to take over as much, until the beard defers to you. Despite this, Russ's value is still lower than it was last year. He is posting career lows in value over replacement player, box plus minus, and win shares per 48 minutes. I was not the biggest fan of the CP3 Westbrook trade for Houston because I felt like it only made the Rockets marginally better while also taking on the huge contract of Russell Westbrook, who is clearly beginning his descent into his decline. However, despite his regression, Russ is still contributing to the Houston Rockets, and I just feel like his contribution is only marginally better than CP3's. But maybe the reason Russ was brought in and CP3 was shipped out was because CP3 and Harden didn't get along? There's not a single player that belongs on this list more than Draymond Green, as he has a box plus minus of a -1 and a PER of 13.5. He's been shooting 41% from the field and 27% from 3, but to be honest, I don't believe there is a single player in the NBA who has had a more fortunate career than Draymond Green. Draymond was drafted onto a team who found a niche for him in the NBA. He makes a living on the defensive end as a small ball 4, but his effect on the game is drastically mitigated without the presence of Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. Draymond's success is directly tied to the Splash Brothers, and without having two incredible all-time three-point shooters next to him, Draymond Green is practically ineffective. Draymond is an asset for anyone that wants to play up-tempo basketball and push the pace, and also has excellent three-point shooters. The only team that could pop into my mind that could trade for him is if the Rockets ship off Clint Capella for Draymond Green.